welcome to the 1 to 11 podcast. It's now time for part 2 of our renewed focus around the Premier League. So last time we did a 1 to 11 squad building challenge where we were looking at players from last season.
But we had the restriction that you can only pick one player per team.
Absolutely.
So this year, this part 2 even, we're looking at this coming year. So we're looking at players who were sort of excited to see for the coming season and the reasons for that. I'm assuming, Paul, you've gone 4-4-2.
There are no other formations.
I've stuck with a 4-2-3-1. I have 11 new players.
I have one player from my previous squad.
Ooh, let's see who remains. So, let's start in goal.
I would like to begin by offering up Jordan Pickford.
Yes, Everton, England.
And the England element is why I've picked him, because
yes,
there's a World Cup in December.
There certainly is, yeah.
And this is a Jordan Pickford who can essentially be playing for that spot. Newcastle, the white smoke has gone up. There's a new pope.
Yes. Ramsdale made inroads into the sort of England camp last year.
And there's, for the first time in a little while with Jordan Pickford, there's a bit of pressure. I know when we looked at the Euros, if Nick Pope hadn't got injured, there's a possibility Nick Pope would have played. But Pickford has done really well in kind of keeping him as the England's tournament keeper. But I think this is a big season for him. Everton were lucky to survive.
Really, I think it's sort of they were an appalling team last year, and how they move on is going to be very interesting. I think Tarkowski is such an Everton signing, but actually I think he might be one of the better ones that they can make. They have lost their top scorer, which doesn't bode well. I think Pickford. What generally I think doesn't do well for Pickford is pressure. I think he's got a spiky personality, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think that's a good shout actually, for especially for such an important winter coming up. It's I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think of him, but I have gone with Nick Pope.
Well, same reason.
Similar reasons. Can he force his way? It's going to be interesting to see him not playing for Burnley. He never really played badly for them, even though they went down. I don't think any of the relegation can be put on him. But the way that Burnley played and defended is very unique to them. Like, they concede a lot of shots, but what they do is they concede shots in areas where they don't expect to concede goals. So, and as well, I like, you look at the Newcastle manager, Eddie. Howe. All I could think of was Edwards. Apologies. I think
It's not the Eagle.
I think there might be a sort of hope that, I think the way he likes to play football, I think he might need to become better at playing the ball with his feet than has been shown at Burnley. And I think it's going to be very interesting, because actually he's a player I really enjoy, and I think, like, if the England team was picked on shot-stopping ability, Pope would be in it. But it's not. It's because most of the time we're playing, in all due respect, teams that we should expect to be, and it's Pickford's ability to play the ball that is more important. But yeah, I'm just very excited to see how he develops this year.
Absolutely.
So, who have you got at? Where do you want to go, left or right back first?
Let's start right back.
Right back.
So who have you got?
I've got Rasmus Christensen.
I feel that's a really strong shout because that's someone who's developed quite a good reputation at Salzburg.
Salzburg, a Ajax youth defender was at Midtjylland. And it seems to be the new, there's this new thing for quite tall fullbacks. You look at Dan Burn for at Brighton for a couple of years at 6'7", and Rasmus Christensen is 6'1". He scored 10 goals for Salzburg last year. I think he has like 8 assists. He should know how the new manager at Leeds, Marsh, wants to play.
And that's what makes him interesting.
They've really bought what he knows there this season, and I was tempted between him and Tariq Lamptey because I'm a big Lamptey fan, but he had a really injury-blighted season last year. It'd be really interesting to see how he comes up. But actually, I've gone with Christensen because the sort of element of the unknown.
And you're a Leeds fan.
And I'm a Leeds fan, and I didn't get any of. Obviously, there was no players from last season because apart from Rafinha, they were all rubbish. So I wanted to include at least one.
Makes total sense.
Who have you gone for right back?
The same player as before, Livramento. Because second season syndrome at Southampton. Is he going to continue at the same pace? Is he now, to use an NFL term, do people have tape on him?
Yeah. As well, you look at someone like Lamptey, a right back who is a full back who basically is going to spend the day bombing down the wings. Is his body going to be able to survive that?
Absolutely.
I hope he picks on because, quite frankly, as I said in part one of this, I think the sky's the limit for that guy.
Yeah.
But we shall see. This is the interesting element of the forthcoming season. We're looking ahead, which is generally not something we do.
Yeah.
We generally look backwards, so this is a bit different from us.
It's weird living in the future.
It is. I don't like it. So, where do you want to go next?
I'd like to take you to my first centre-back.
Okay.
Koulibaly at Chelsea.
Koulibaly, I mean, as someone who watches listens, it's all about transfer gossip and everything. He apparently could have been in the Premiership for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Finally arriving at Chelsea, and I do watch a bit of Italian football, and you watch Koulibaly, and the guy is brilliant.
Man mountain.
Oh, yeah. And as well, plays with Mendy at international level.
Yeah.
So there's going to be an understanding there, which actually is quite...
They won AFCON together, didn't they?
Exactly. So, yeah, that's going to be quite a good start for them. And as well, playing with Thiago Silva, who still shows signs of life as a top-quality centre-back.
Was he as a 48-year-old man?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting I think they're going to play a three, aren't they, from the sounds of it? It's going to be interesting who they play with them, because...
The rumours is Kimpembe.
Yeah. I'd be willing to just promote Levi Colwill and just see what happens, because I can tell you what happens when you buy Kimpembe. He makes an error a game that costs you a goal.
Surely there's a buyback on Tomori.
Possibly. Chalobah was very good last year. I don't see why... maybe you want slightly more... You want 3 first choice and then 3... youth options behind. But technically, you've still got Azpilicueta, who hasn't left Chelsea yet. I know that Barcelona want him, but he
plays like Ethan Ampadu.
Yeah. No, there's being Chelsea, they obviously have all the youth players, seemingly, but it isn't going to be interesting who they go. But yeah, Koulibaly. Hopefully. If he can transfer that Napoli form to England,
Chelsea will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that you lose Rudiger as a defender and then bring in possibly someone with more talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who have you got next to Koulibaly?
Again, a bit of a hangover. I've got Virgil van Dijk, because I'm interested to see. I think Liverpool are getting older.
Yeah.
They're getting older. And I'd be interested to see how they adapt for another season, because Mentality Monsters or Monsters of Mentality?
Mentality Monsters, yeah.
Players have a certain shelf life. He's had an injury. It's interesting to see. Like, he was fantastic last season coming back from injury, but now he's got a full workload. He's got the World Cup coming up, and Holland are going.
Yeah, they've got
I had to double check mentally. Yeah, wish he never got rid of him. But yeah, he's going to be interesting to watch, and I think just Liverpool as a whole, because Liverpool have got these other players that I know if you're a Liverpool fan for some reason you think they're phenomenal. Joe Gomez is okay.
I do like Konate. I think Konate, I don't understand if you had the choice of Konate and Upamecano, you'd go for Upamecano, because I think Konate was better anyway. Yeah, but I agree. Yeah, I think Van Dijk and Konate is a great centre-back pairing. And as well, Konate's in his second year. Hopefully they should get, you'd imagine they would get better. Let's see.
But pre-season form so far, he's looked... I mean, there's footage today of Jovetic schooling him.
I mean, it's pre-season form. Let's not read too much into it. But, I mean, before his injury, let's not forget that they did concede 8 goals to Villa.
Yeah.
It can go wrong for Liverpool sometimes.
Hopefully for 38 games in a row. He's going to be one to watch for me. Tell me your centre-backs, John.
I've got Christian Romero.
Okay, great. Someone now he's there permanently, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he sort of had an injury when he first came to England, but now he's fully integrated in. But also he's going to have new partners this year, because I think they've bought
Longley.
They've loaned Longley with an option to buy, I do think the days of Ben Davies one side and Eric Dyer the other side are probably over for him. I think Tottenham are just going to be very interesting this year. It's like they're backing Conte, but I think Romero is such a rock for them. I think he'll be proper, not stereotype as such. He's a typical Argentinian defender. There's a ruthless streak in him, and it makes him quite fun to watch.
And Argentinians do tend to do quite well at Tottenham.
Yes.
Cup for Tottenham.
And next to him, I've got Fofana.
Coming back from injury.
He
made Leicester a better team.
Yeah. Last year, Leicester, I mean, they conceded so many goals from set pieces. More than any other team in the league by a long way. But they also, I think Johnny Evans spent most of the season injured. The people behind them aren't good enough.
Soyuncu is good, but he's not.
I think Soyuncu needs a top tier defender alongside him. Otherwise, I think there's too many Ricks in him.
He's the modern day Mikael Silvestre.
Yeah, and I think Fofana is possibly the best defender outside the top 3-4 teams in the league right now, and it to get the injury in such a pointless friendly as well, like pre-season, absolute horror, they're going to be a better team with him in.
Yes.
Hopefully they can get Ty Tielemans to a contract. It looks like he probably will be off, but yeah, I think a Leicester team with Fofana is safer than They were so poor last year.
That's true. That's very true.
Left back.
Aaron Hickey.
Aaron Hickey. So Brentford.
Yeah, so this is a guy who made a name for himself at Hibs, got a move to Bologna, which was very, very unexpected. But Bologna have now kind of built this kind of Scottish following they're getting because they signed Lewis Ferguson from Aberdeen this summer. Again, very good player. But Aaron Hickey is... He's very good. He can play across, he can play either side of fullback, and just is a really talented young player. And I think he'll be really interesting to watch because Brentford have the potential for a shock of the second season syndrome. You know,
Yeah, especially without Ericsson.
yeah, because Hull stayed up. Remember?
No, did they?
Exactly. The Phil Brown Hull stayed up.
Yeah.
When just plummeted the second season.
Oh yeah, second season. Yeah, Sheffield United. Leeds is like
very close.
We didn't, last minute, goal to settle it. Josh Doig has moved from Aberdeen to Verona on the advice of Aaron Hickey.
But it's nice to see because you look at Jude Bellingham.
Yeah,
British players can thrive abroad.
Yeah, there is a lot of the sort of remember that the Arsenal youth players started like Nelson went out to Feyenoord. Other players, I think a couple of them went to Leipzig and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ademola Lookman went on loan to Leipzig from Everton.
Yeah,
ended up joining them.
Yeah, there is a sort of a young British player who's going out to join foreign clubs, and I think the more British players there are abroad, I think it is better. Like it's better for their
football
development. I think you'd learn something by going abroad.
And also, you look at these other players, like Spain winning the World Cup, that Spain team. Okay, you had the core, but you did also have Cesc Fabregas playing in Britain,
Juan Mata,
Fernando Torres, David Silva.
Yeah,
a litany of players who were having to work in tighter spaces, and then when they've got this freedom that their Spain formation allows, become titans.
Yeah, no, I think it is better. Bellingham, I think is a monster. I think no matter where he plays, he's going to be a star. But the fact that he's playing so well in Dortmund, in a foreign league, is just absolutely brilliant. I've gone with Ben Chilwell.
A return from injury.
This might be a theme of mine. Actually, I think that's the last of them. Covered. Now I said that.
That's good podcasting.
Apologies. Ben Chilwell, just the reason I do think the reason that Chelsea struggled is because he is so integral to not only defensively but attacking to their team, and you get a different sort of thing from Marcus Alonso. It's just he's not as sort of effervescent going forward. And
Marcus Alonso's the wrong side of 30.
Yeah,
says the 35-year-old man.
But we're not Premier League footballers. We're just judging them. Marcus Alonso also wants to go to Barcelona. Don't we all?
Bye.
But yeah, I think Ben Chilwell coming back to Chelsea won't make them a much better team.
I agree. That's a great shout.
Yeah. So, who have you got? Who have you got right midfield?
Brennan Johnson at Forest.
I think that's really interesting. I sort of wanted Huddersfield to win the Championship final because I really wanted Leeds to have a go at signing Brennan Johnson, and I thought it would be easier if he stayed in the Championship. He's an exciting player, isn't he?
Yeah, and he comes from good stock. He comes from David Johnson, who was the Man U youth player.
Well, he was a
Forest
legend.
Yeah, 16 goals last season, which is really, really impressive. Really impressive.
And he's starting to make his mark on the Welsh team.
Yeah.
So we'll be seeing him at the World Cup.
Yeah, and him on one side, Bale on the other is going to be...
Yeah, it's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Well, Bale through the middle, or Harry Wilson's on the other. Either way, he's going to be a really interesting one to watch, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great shout. I've gone with... technically I'm playing 4-2-3-1, so mine are more wingers. I have Mohamed Salah.
Yeah.
Signed a new massive contract. So he's the other side of 30 now.
30.
He's 30. But, he's at the age where generally people don't sign big contracts. And he's got a 3-year one. I think it's 300,000 a week, isn't it? Basically, he's the highest paid Liverpool player ever. And actually,
he deserves it.
If you're paying him, you're paying him for what he's done. He's worth every penny. Also, now you are seeing players not hitting their peak after 30, but remaining in their peak years long after 30. So the fact that I think sort of the Twitterati are going, oh, you don't pay that for a 30-year-old. Salah, look at Benzema, who's just won the Champions League, had probably the season of his life. He's 34.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to. This is the start of looking at sort of player age differently. I think this wouldn't have happened even 2 years ago. You wouldn't have clubs paying £300,000 a week to up someone's wages at 30. And actually, I don't see it as the biggest error in the world to do so. I think it's actually smart. You've got Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez now to integrate into the team. Jota, I think, is a fantastic. You still got Firmino
and Harvey Elliott.
There's, if, for instance, maybe he does start to tire more, I don't actually think it's a bad thing to give Salah a bit of a rest. He does play a hell of a lot of games. And before the African Cup of Nations, he was on for the best season of his career. Like, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, for Liverpool, I think it does depend more. A lot of it will also depend on how they replace Mane, be it Jota, Darwin Núñez, or Harvey Elliott.
But it's almost like I felt almost with them bringing in Luis Diaz. It was them expecting one of the holy trio to go.
Yeah, I, in my mind, I did expect Firmino to be the one, even if he didn't leave, to be the one that's seeing less of the pitch. It probably is going to be the case. I don't think they really wanted Mane to go, but it's. I think it's a fascinating year for Liverpool. I think they'll be up there again. I just don't think they'll be. I don't know. I think there's a bit of change in the air. But let's see. Who have you got, Paul?
So, if I go into centre mid,
What's it?
I'd like to start with Basuma at Tottenham.
I think that's a fantastic signing.
So do I.
I know he faced a legal challenge, didn't he? I think that's now put to one side.
That's right.
So we can, for all intents and purposes, ignore that. I try not to do such things, but that isn't. He's been cleared of all allegations, so all good. He's going to provide some mobility to that Tottenham midfield, isn't he?
Feels a little bit like when Moussa Dembele went there. He's not immediately going to... He's not like the first name on the team sheet, but he will improve play for the forwards.
Yeah.
And also, you forget, like, they've got Kulusevski as well, Kulusevski, Son and Kane.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a forward three.
Perisic
Yeah.
to add to. I know he'll be playing wing back, but like what he can add, like Tottenham are really intriguing me this year. As an outsider looking in, because I think what you look at it and you're like, I think they needed some new wing backs. It looks like they're getting that from either being like Jed Spence or Perisic. Sessegnon looks like he's developing into the player they thought they were going to get. Kulishevsky, really good. I think they've added some depth up front with Richarlison as well.
And also Richarlison, who can play anywhere across the
Exactly. As well, what I thought their weakest point last year was the midfield, and I think Bissouma adds some zip to that, because like Skip and Winks alongside Højbjerg, I can't, apologies, and Bentancur. That's fun. That can be
depth.
That is depth. No, it's brilliant. It's annoying.
Who have you got?
I have. So my first one is Fabio Vieira.
Great
from
shout.
Arsenal.
Great shout. I think he's going to be really interesting, because obviously young Portuguese wingers can turn into world beaters, as we know.
Yeah, he can sort of play anywhere across the midfield and the top.
Anywhere.
Basically, I put him in because actually the one I thought I'd put in was Ødegaard, but Vieira's new. And I just wonder how it's all going to fit together. I don't know if it's depth or whatever, but I think that they're spending a lot of money, Arsenal, as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of finally the cronky purse strings have loosened. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. They're backing the manager. I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm interested to see how this one goes. I don't think Fabio Vieira will probably play as a two in midfield.
But you never know.
And I think he's but he can play there. So I thumbed him in, and I think it's a really sort of intriguing and exciting times in North London. I think they're both making plays for that fourth position.
So my next midfielder, I'm going to stay in London, but someone we mentioned last week, Declan Rice.
Yeah.
Declan Rice with a full off-season.
Yes. Big year for him.
Yeah, World Cup year as well.
I mean, he's practically one of the first names on the team sheet now. Like, he's part of that spine of, he's the centre midfielder. It's whether, you have a Bellingham or a Phillips or a Henderson next to him. He needed a rest. I think he was overplayed last year. Not his fault. I think West Ham had horrible injury issues.
It's injury issues, the Euros and the Europa League is extra games you don't expect. And also, West Ham did well in the Europa League.
They did. By then, they just couldn't afford to rest him because they were fighting for Europe. It was strangely optimistic times at West Ham. Let's see how they move on this year. And we know Rice's quality.
Absolutely,
Really exciting player. I've gone with Boubacar Kamara in midfield.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because I thought that was the beginning of kind of a deluge into Villa, which never really happened.
Yeah, I don't really think Villa need a deluge. Like, they do have
Carney Chukwuemeka.
He looks like he's off, doesn't he?
But he's out of contract. And they wanted some quality in midfield, and you've got one of the best youngsters in world football, apparently.
Well, yeah, isn't he a year left on his contract?
And Barcelona want him.
Yeah, but like, who don't they want?
I mean, they are one tangent. It does feel very much like the guy should be going to bankruptcy courts just turned up in a Porsche.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a part of the issues in Barcelona, of course, is the it's not the availability of money as such. I know they're ridiculously in debt, but they have cash, but they don't have the wage things to do it. It's a bizarre system. Actually, I quite like the system, but it's bizarre how Barcelona are having to get around it. But yeah, anyway, Boubacar Kamara, joining from Marseille, one of the most in-demand midfielders in world football. It's at one point. Can play at centre-back. I mean, he's class.
Right up Steven Gerrard Street.
Yeah. On paper, makes that Villa team a whole lot better.
Just a bit of tenacity in the midfield, which they've kind of stagnated a little bit towards the back end of last year.
If they can, get, I guess in the midfield, I think they play midfield three of Kamara, McGinn, and Coutinho. Actually, there's a lot of energy in that. There's a lot of class. Let's see how they develop.
And also, you think about it, with Kamara and McGinn, there's some fucking industry in there as well.
Yeah. They've also brought in Diego Carlos to add a bit of bite to that defence. They weren't a bad team on paper. I think they're sort of strange. I think they're having I don't know what it is, but
you forget they were a championship club 3 years ago.
Oh yeah. I mean, they've spent a lot of money to stay in the division. They're now paying a lot of money, seemingly, to progress up. Let's see what happens. But I think actually there's a bit of quality in that Villa team. Let's see if they can make some moves to progress. Who have you got at left mid?
Jadon Sancho.
Big year for him.
He looked like he was beginning to get it towards the end. But also, I think the Ten Hag system will suit him because I mentioned last week, Ten Hag enjoys wingers, enjoys Anthony, enjoys Ziyech. Various other wingers have come through that system. So there's other ones that are coming into it in terms of what they're doing at Ajax. But I think they're good. I think he is going to be very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think he needs like a bit of at Dortmund, he had very specific instructions. Like he knew he was going to make this run, and then Haaland was going to do this, and he knew what was going to happen without,
It took a lot. It took coaching training to get him to a point where he knew what he was doing.
And I don't think Solskjaer or Rangnick gave him that.
Ten Hag.
So I think Ten Hag should give him that, and hopefully we can start seeing him. They paid 80 million quid for him or something ridiculous. We should start seeing them getting performances that pay demands.
And also, again, World Cup year.
Yeah.
So very interesting to see what he does. So that was your midfield three. So talk about.
Oh no, I've got my left midfielder. So I have Eze.
Yeah. So this is Palace, isn't it?
Palace. They had a half decent season last year. They never were in danger of going down. Never really threatened Europe. They have lost Conor Gallagher, who's gone back to Chelsea. I think they haven't really looked. They've got. I think they bought Doucouré.
Yeah.
Doucouré. Hopefully, he can provide some bite to that midfield as well. But the return of Eze, I know he played a bit last year, but he was coming back from an injury. I'd like to see him really step on, make that, make his main name in midfield, because before he got injured, he was such an exciting player. Let's hope we can see that sort of Eze back. I think it only makes Crystal Palace better. He could be the long-term replacement for Zaha, who will eventually leave Crystal Palace again. Whether it be or at the end of a contract. he's such an exciting player. The injury was horribly timed, but I'd love to see him get there, and he can then make the press for England to call up because I think he's that talented.
I agree with you. He really is.
So you have a front two.
I do indeed.
Who have you got there?
Erling Haaland.
I have Erling Haaland because why wouldn't you have Erling Haaland? It's going to be fascinating to see how he fits into this team.
Also, it seems like it's one of those no middle ground things for me. I can't see him being all right. He's either going to just tear the space-time continuum of the Premier League, or he's not going to be that good. I think he's going to absolutely rip the league apart, personally.
I think he'll be great. What I think you might find is I think you might see Pep save him back for the Champions League a bit. So his league numbers might not be brilliant, but I mean, I think they brought him in to get from the sort of semi-final losing finalist phase which they're at to make that final push. I mean, if Jack Grealish was a better finisher, they'd have got past Madrid. I think they've let Sterling move on because he isn't clinical enough. I think Haaland
He's Mr. Clinical.
He is. He's going to be. If they get it right, then God, that could be horrible for the rest of the league. Quite frankly, who have you got next to Haaland?
Gabriel Jesus.
So, leaving City, going to Arsenal. 40 million quid, 50 million pounds, something like that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money. Arteta knows him. Should be. It should be an improvement on what they've had before, which was
not a lot.
Not a lot. Lacazette, who actually he was very good at being sort of like a pivot. Oh, I'm trying to think the attack. He helped build attacks, but he wasn't there to finish them off. I think Jesus could add a bit more energy, and that's what they didn't get from Lacazette.
And also, he can play as an out-and-out striker.
He can also play on the wing as well.
But I almost wouldn't mention that to Arsenal.
Well, I think Jesus sees himself as a winger, bizarrely, but I think playing wherever he needs to be. I think he adds to that team. Do they give Martinelli a go up front and swap him around? I've gone centre attacking midfield. I've gone Christian Eriksen.
Him at United is going to be a very interesting proposition.
Yeah. Interesting to see how the Ten Hag thing goes, as you said. He was brilliant for Brentford. Better than anyone sort of could have expected. If he can bring that form to Man United, I do think. I think that Fernandes had a really poor season last year. I think some competition or some alternative to him, I think that is much needed.
I agree.
And but of course we can judge this at the end of the season, see how we did, how any of these guys, has Camera added to Villa.
Are they still there?
Has how has Koulibaly fitted in at Chelsea, etc. So we can go with that at the end of the season. But until then, and we'll carry on our Premier League odyssey, and we'll come back soon.
Ta-ra.
See you soon.